We are live from Auckland Park in Johannesburg, and it's that time of the evening where we engage with you on matters that affect you, matters that affect your family, matters that affect your community. Tonight, the governing party in sharp focus. Why, you ask? Well, they topical. A very good evening to you, South Africa, those watching around the world. My name is Blaine Herman, and this is It's Topical. Our digital audience with us tonight. They're going to pop up in your screen in a bit. It's good to have them on the program. There you see their beautiful faces. We're going to get their burning questions and comments for our guests in a short while. Just a reminder to our digital audience to please put their hands up, virtual hands up, and I'll try my very best to get you on air. Africa's oldest liberation movement cum political party, currently holding its 55th National Conference in Nasrec. Aside from the conference rubber stamping policies, new leadership is being elected. The importance of this conference cannot be overstated, and it has to be understood within the context, in the broader context, that is, of the 2024 general elections. We also have our producer, Makiketa Motlabe, out and about for us in Booysens. He is with ordinary citizens eagerly awaiting for the voting outcome. And I guess it really talks to the issue of citizens wanting to be more involved and play their part in getting this country to that better place that we keep on talking about on this program. So stand by. We'll hear from them in a short while. That's what It's Topical is all about, my brothers and sisters, giving voice to the voiceless. It's immediate, it's live, and it's direct, which leads us to our question of the week. And we ask you, what do you make of the current ANC leadership nominations? Let us know at It's Topical SABC. Walk with me while we get you some context. Now, we hear that it's no longer a top 6, it's going to be a top 7. What does this mean? Fresh developments. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma declining a nomination for party president. Outgoing ANC Deputy President David Mabuza declining nomination for a second tenure. What does this all mean with regard to the party and also you as the voter? We will discuss. Unbelievable stuff. 86, 78, now 2022. It just doesn't get better for Argentina. We'll get you more highlights a little later on. All right, that was the breaking sporting news coming out from Qatar. Now let's turn to another contest whose results we are eagerly awaiting. The ANC's 2022 National Conference is the 8th time the event is being held since the party's unbanning in 1990. And this time around, the African National Congress amended its constitution to allow for an additional position of Second Deputy Secretary General. The party will now have top 7 as opposed to the previous format of the top 6 leadership. So let's have a look at the candidates that are vying for the ANC's top 7 position. So for President Cyril Ramaphosa, who narrowly won the ANC presidency in 2017 by beating Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma by 179 votes. This time around, he faces off with another doctor, Dr. Zweli Mkhize, who served as the ANC Treasurer General, elected to office from 2012 to 2017. Then have a look at the position for Deputy President. The 39-year-old Ronald Ozzy Lamula, who is the current Minister of Justice and Correctional Services. Oscar Maboyane, who is the current ANC chairperson in the Eastern Cape, as well as the Premier of the province, and then Paul Mashatile, who was elected Treasurer General of the ANC at Nasrec in 2017. I want to have a look at the chairperson position. Nominations on your screen: David Masondo, the incumbent, Gwede Mantashe, as well as Stanley Matabata, who is the current Limpopo Premier. Now, let's talk about the Secretary General position. Fikile Mbalula, the former ANC KZN Provincial Secretary Mdumseni Ntuli, and the Deputy Minister of Public Enterprises, Phumulo Masualle. These are the nominations as it stands. Now, where we seeing this additional position? Here, it's right here. The first Deputy Secretary General, Nombula Mokonyane, who is currently based at Luthuli House, and the former Minister, Cabinet Minister, Tina Joemat-Pettersson. Now, for the position of the second Deputy Secretary General, Women's League Coordinator, Maropini Ramakgopa, and the ANC Western Cape Coordinator, Ronaldo Nalumango. And remember, Joemat-Pettersson, Ramakgopa, and Nalumango were nominated from the floor by delegates at the conference, whereas the other received nominations from the branches. And then have a look at this. This was very interesting, and there was development today regarding this. And I will just show you the developments. Let me just get my ducks in a row. That's the new development. And finally, the Treasurer General position, the former Gauteng Health MEC and Tshwane Mayor, Dr. Gwen Ramakgopa, Bejani Chauke, who is the President Cyril Ramaphosa's specialist political advisor in the presidency, and Phule Mabe. Fresh developments with regards to Mzondile Masina withdrawing his candidacy, saying he will now support Mabe. What do you make of the current caliber of the current leadership nominations? Let us know at It's Topical SABC. All right, I want to bring in now our guest who's live for us in Nasrec, Dr. Levi Indau. It's good to have your better mind on this program, sir. It is no doubt exciting times within the ANC, but the country eagerly awaiting. We already got one result. Argentina is the world champions. What can we expect with regards to the race for president? Do you think Cyril Ramaphosa and Dr. Zweli Mkhize are anxious at this stage? Do you expect any surprises?
Good evening, Blaine. Good evening to the viewers at home. Indeed, let's congratulate Argentina for winning the World Cup. It was long overdue, but let's congratulate them. Well, I think if you look at what makes us to be at Nasrec, is that the nomination process has come and gone, and it's important to note that there has been a lot of canvassing, a lot of persuasions, and a lot of lobbying that has been going on. And at this stage, we are all anxiously waiting to see what then would actually happen. But there are a lot of new developments here at Nasrec, Blaine, that there's a lot of movements that are actually informed by the pronouncements that are being made by different provincial leaders. The leadership of the province in Limpopo, which has been in support of President Ramaphosa, appears to be shifting, even though delegates on the other side are saying, no, we're actually not moving with the provincial leadership. Gauteng has also made a pronouncement, and they say that because Ramaphosa's team does not appear to be accommodating Paul Mashatile, then they are actually moving towards Zweli Mkhize. And we just don't know exactly what is going to happen, but there is tense lobbying. There are a lot of negotiations happening behind closed doors, and we're just going to wait until the results are announced.
Right. Developments coming over the last 24 hours with regards to Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma as well as David Mabuza, both declining nominations in respect to the various positions. Did that come to you as a surprise?
Not at all, Blaine. If you look at the nomination process, they both did not get sufficient numbers during the nomination process, and they both indicated that they might stand if they're actually being nominated from the floor. It did happen, and unfortunately, both of them decided to decline the nominations. And of course, there could be reasons for that. you actually have to sit down and read the mood of conference. And when the numbers are actually not on your side, the best would be to decline a nomination in order to avoid unnecessary embarrassment.
Right. Talking about the mood of conference, talk to us about the interaction between President Cyril Ramaphosa and former President Jacob Zuma. We know what's going on in terms of the larger picture, the court bid, the private prosecution. Then we see a video of the two kind of friendly, talking to each other, joking to each other. How should the ordinary person view this?
Well, you would agree with me that parliamentarians would argue and portray a picture that would tell you that these people would not even greet each other outside parliament. And we have seen a lot of politicians in South Africa being able to have casual talks amongst themselves and smile and laugh, and you could see friendship.
Yeah.
And I think the relationship between Jacob Zuma and Ramaphosa should also be looked at in that context. They appear to be enemies politically, not just opponents. It has actually gone beyond being opponents. I think these are political enemies. But at least they are able to sit down and smile at each other. And I don't think when they talk to each other, they are discussing politics, because at the heart of their differences are the political positions that they both portray, and that is the source of their differences.
All right. Dr. Ndo, stand by for us. I just want to bring in our digital audience, if I can, and get their thoughts and, of course, pose some questions to you as well. I hope you can hear our digital audience. Let's say hello to Srini Naidu. If you can unmute, sir. With regards to, if you had a look at the top 7 positions, as well as the nominations that followed, what do you make of the caliber of nominations?
Good evening, Blaine, and good evening to the viewers. You know, there was always talk about if Cyril Ramaphosa has to vacate his position, who's going to come up to take his place. Yeah. And I think we have a good slate with Zweli Mkhize and company. You see, the main thing of whoever comes into office is that they are honest. Yeah. And they do things for the right reasons. Cyril Ramaphosa, in his term in office, was a very indecisive leader, very undecided, never putting himself on the line, always sitting on the fence. If you think about how he treats, I mean, we're a BRICS nation. We've been taken to BRICS very proudly, you know, but yet he goes and consorts with the other side, so to speak. Straight out of BRICS. I mean, you've got allies, very, very powerful allies, the majority of the world's population behind us. We've got business partners within BRICS that will make a success of our country. Yet he goes off and consorts with the G7 and tries. You know, you are at the G7 as a very, very inferior. You're not even on equal footing there. So I think whoever comes in must make a go for it and rule honestly.
It talks to how voters vote, isn't it? It's not purely on policy. Voters sometimes vote on feel. If I feel I can trust you, maybe I'll vote for you. So it cuts both ways. Karaba, let's bring you in. Thank you, Mr. Naidu. Karaba, let's bring you in. You, together with Yolokazi, I understand, penned an opinion piece in the Mail and Guardian recently, and it was titled, "It's Time for the ANC to Let Women Lead." 5 women among the nominees for the top 7 position currently. Good enough?
Thank you. So good evening, Blaine, and good evening to the viewers. It's a start, but I would say it's not good enough at all, considering the history and the representation of women within the top six specifically. We've seen the trend of women constantly receiving the Deputy Secretary General role, and it's even worse that they created an extra one, and they're going to place two women in Deputy Secretary General roles. I think that the ANC has created this narrative and this patriarchal system that the top six positions are synonymous with men. And equally, there's little support in terms of, driving the inclusion of women in the top six. Despite the fact that they have a 50% quota, it's not necessarily translating into the top six. It seems like it's such a blanket and it's not really equitable at all. We're not seeing women actually reflect in the top six, and we need to see that. I mean, we have so many capable women who have showed up. And I think when we're talking about the ethical leadership that we're going to need in this country, women are going to be the people that step forward and show this ethical leadership that South Africa is desperately looking for.
At landless_queen, you nodding your head, has been said that the liberation of women is a necessity for the revolution. When you look at the strides that have been made over the past decade or so, would you say that there is enough being done in order to, I guess, create this equitable representation of women in decision-making structures? Oops, is it just me? Or I cannot hear Atlantis. Let's try to fix that. I'll bring in Anissa in the meantime. We'll try to sort your audio out there. Anissa, jump in with regards to equitable representation of women within the ANC. Anissa, if you can unmute. There we go. All right, it seems that I'm having an issue hearing our digital audience. Let's bring in, while we try to sort that out, let's bring in Dr. Levindo back into the conversation. With regards to that question, Dr. Ndo, is it a major factor in this conference with regards to gender representation within the ANC? How is it being framed?
Well, Blaine, you will recall that the ANC has adopted a 50-50 representation in the positions of leadership in the ANC. And even though this position was adopted many years ago, there has been a very slow progress in terms of having sufficient women elected in the leadership positions of the ANC, especially in the top 5, top 6, and so on and so on. But of major concern is that when the nomination process was unfolding, the ANC Women's League nominated males into these positions. My view is that women should actually take it upon themselves to say this is their time to lead the ANC. In 2017, right in Nasrec, there was a view when Dr. Nkosazana Zuma was contesting that maybe the ANC might have a woman president. And the talk within the ranks of those that were supporting Dr. Nkosazana Zuma was that it is the period for women to lead. And unfortunately, she could not make it. And that's why Ramaphosa had to come in. I think it is time for women in South Africa and in the ANC to come together and say it is time for them to lead. Most of the women in the ANC and government have actually shown good leadership, and South Africa can still be in good hands if we're being led by a woman.
All right, let's go back to our digital audience. Stand by, Dr. Ndo. Zita, you have your hand up. Friend of show. Your comment. If you can unmute, Zita. That's it. Go on.
Thank you very much. I've been looking to the way lineup it has been structured. If I were to be given a chance to say, would you like to see I would love to see President Cyril Ramaphosa would return to his position. Being the deputy, I would love to see Ronald Lamula to be given that. Reason being, we want to check with the young blood whether they capable, are they fit enough to this one? Because you should understand that I don't know whether it's a culture of ANC or what. It's almost led by the old crop of which the future of the Republic of South Africa is uncertain. Because by the look of things, I was very concerned and been pushed by the statement which had said that, ANC, or maybe in ANC, there's no women who are amazing to be the leaders of this country.
Yeah.
You ask yourself, why? Are they good on those door politics, or they are not ready to emerge? Or maybe they feel accountability. That's what I'm saying. If the responsibility can be given to Ronald Lamula as a deputy, we will try to advise the president, or in this absentia, we will try to take over. But what worries me most, we know that ANC rely most on the people.
Okay. Zita. Yeah. We're just having a bit of an issue with your line as well. I'm hoping that we can clear it up. Our producer will talk to you off air. Let's bring in @landless_queen. You have your hand up. Zita raising an interesting point with regards to
thank you very much, Blaine.
the youth, bringing in the youth, but we're also talking about gender representation. And look, I guess as analyst Angelo Fick as well as Susan Booysens was saying, it's not only about filling up the ranks of the ANC with youth, it's also about the caliber of youth that you attract, correct?
Yeah. Thank you, Blaine. Are you able to hear me now?
Loud and clear. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Blaine, to yourself and to the panel and the viewers at home. I'm very glad that the element of youth leadership has also been brought in. In the question of gender representation within the ANC, I am of the view that the former president, Jacob Zuma, was one person who pushed for women to be in leadership and in strategic positions, who supported the autonomy and the independence and the growth of the leagues. What we observed, though, is that under the Ramaphosa regime, the Youth League and the Women's League got disbanded and they become really non-entities. We have a lot of other provinces that still don't even have PECs. So my comment is that the kind of leadership is critical and important to understand the value that young people and women bring into the fore of running a country and leading the country. There is a quote by Thomas Sowell.
Yeah.
And the quote says that no one will really understand politics until they understand that politicians are not trying to solve our problems. They're trying to solve their own problems, of which getting elected and re-elected are number one and number two.
Yeah.
Whatever is number three is far behind. Therefore, if we look at what is happening with the ANC conference, we also as South Africans need to be conscious of the fact that ultimately what these individuals or people are actually trying to do, in as much as representing themselves as the representatives of the people, but over and above, they're really trying to solve their own problems. We are seeing now, for example, what's his name, Masina has pulled out of the TG race. And the whole idea there is that they want to align the Mkhize slate with Mabe, because obviously if now he was also still part of that, of the candidacy to be TG, then the vote would be split. So one needs to look at politicians and developments around politics, really around that these people are just trying to solve their own problems. And unfortunately, their own problems are what we have to live with the consequences of. And that is my issue.
All right. @Landless_Queen, thank you very much indeed for your input. I want to now bring in my colleague Mark Iketla Motlhabe, his live for us in Booysens. There is no South Africa without citizens, just like it's topical, it's topical without the voice of the people. What are they saying? As you have literally your fireside chat. Talk to us about the voice of the people.
Evening to you, Blaine. Well, we are coming to you live from Booysens informal settlement, just on the outskirts of Johannesburg. Yes, we are sitting under the rain, and of course, around what they call imbawula, or the brazier. This is their only source of heat in this informal settlement. This is just among, of course, the lack of service delivery issues that they face on a daily basis in this part of Johannesburg. But, well, never mind about their lack of electricity. They have been listening. They have been reading the news that continue to emerge from Nazareth regarding the ANC conference. So we're going to give them the voice here. And let's start with Ntate David. Ntate, re a kwešiša gore ntše le di šetše morago jaaka Nazareth conferenceng ya ANC nke le re tlhalošetše gore le na le taba le se le gona le bona eng se direga ka fale
thina sinayo indaba eNazareth siyayivuma iconference kodwa mara asinalo iqiniso laba bantu ukuthi benza ntoni ngoba okokuqala basinakanga ngoba la ngoku sinelete sasiyibhalile ukhansela ukuthi sicela electric ama-toilet ayisimathoyilethi okuphila abantu okokuqala ubona ilindle lakho nobona ilindle lomunye umuntu ungaphila kanjani kwilindle lomunye umuntu 2 okwesibili umsebenzi awukho abantu balana bathathwa ngokuthi basebenzani ama-piece job ama-contractor akekho umuntu osebenza kuma-main contractor the most abantu bathathwa ama-2 days 3 days engeke sisolo cancel so solo umeya wethu akanandaba nathi.
All right. So just to sum it up, Blaine, he is saying that, well, they are actually following the news in Nazareth about the ANC conference, but what they are concerned about is their issues, the issues of service delivery falling on deaf ears, irrespective of who is elected. Obviously, the mayor being thrown under the bus here, they are saying that they really need to have their issues addressed regarding the issues of electricity. I mean, this is just among those issues that they are facing in this community. But let's bring Nomvula here. Nomvula, I mean, we were looking at the list earlier on, and actually we are now looking at it. What do you make of it, about these nominees there in Nazareth?
Tsona ntate di hlile ha di nthabise hobane tekatekano ya bong ha iyo mo ha re bone bomme ba hlailetseng ka hodimo e le bona ba tlamileng ho kgethwa mo bomme ke bontate fela go tshwa go tekatekano ha iyo so re kopa bomme le bona ba ke ba be ka sehlogong ba beuwe ka pele jwalo ka ho thwe ke 50-50 mo Mzansi re kopa bomme ba leader.
The 50-50 chorus that we normally hear in this country, the same with applies to ANC. She's saying that looking at this list here, Blaine, it doesn't seem like women were actually prioritized because it looks like it's only dominated by men. So she would actually have liked to see women being put in these strategic positions or top positions. But let me just bring for the last time here from the LGBTQI community. Pimelo, let's talk about this. And we also talked about it earlier on. Looking at this list and what's happening there in Nazareth, what is your assessment?
My assessment is the thing that I saw, like they're oppressing us as LGBTQ groups. So like it's only like the men up there, and there's no women. And if only when it comes to the list that we're having right now, the women are only they want the deputies. How about us as gay people? How can we be the leaders? So that's the thing that I'm fighting about it. So exactly my point. Yes. So every time I roll like that, and again, the presidents. How about those people that went to school and studied politicians? They are not the presidents, but those people that they were there because of like their fathers, they've been to jail, or they've been to jail also, but they never fought for our freedom. But they are the presidents. What about those? For nothing. And then went to school for nothing. So does our mothers were wasting their school fees for their school fees for nothing? How are we going to school for? I don't know either.
Yeah, well, Blade, I suppose, is that issue of Ace Bakashule telling our senior reporter there, saying that, well, the people that need to be nominated need to have struggle credentials. But what Pimelo here is saying is the same issue again. Yeah. Where is the equality on this list?
Yeah. Look, that's what it boils down to, isn't it? You're talking to people who inform the strategy to get to that better place. Politicians need to listen to that. It's well and good. The election race is very interesting. All the drama, excellent. But it all boils down to the bread and butter issues, what you're talking about, Makeketla. Excellent reporting, as always, instructive. Makeketla Motlabede. Let me bring in Dr. Levindo back into the conversation. Dr. Ndo, has the ANC, would you say, reached an inflection point by which the shine of the powerful Liberation Party is slowly dulling and fading from the memories of the citizens? Or is that too powerful of a factor to ever fade away? What's your thoughts?
Well, if you look at the election results in South Africa, the ANC support is actually going down elections after elections. And one of the issues that we need to look at is that at the heart of the decline of the ANC are issues that are related to the challenges that the ANC face, which the ANC has to deal with. The decline of the ANC in the electoral support cannot be blamed entirely on foreign forces. The ANC has to deal with few things, and I'm going to count them for you. The ANC should be able to deal with matters relating to integrity and corruption. The ANC has to prioritize service delivery to the people of South Africa, as it was actually indicated by the people that Mamutleka has just visited. The ANC has to ensure that post-conferences, it is able to bring all the members together and have one united ANC. Factionalism, for me, it's one of the biggest challenges that is facing the ANC, and it appears as if the ANC is failing to deal with factionalism within its own ranks. And in my view, if the ANC is able or tries to deal with the matters that I've actually indicated and many others, the ANC can then be able to go back to its glorious days and then be taken very seriously by the citizens of South Africa.
Dr. Levindo, I understand that you need to run. Thank you very much indeed for your better mind on this program and giving us context, perspective. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. Dr. Levindo there, live for us in Nasrec, where it's all happening. We got our finger on the pulse. We'll bring you all the very latest as and when it happens. We also have our digital audience. We're going to take this conversation further. Quick break. More next. Welcome back. You're watching It's Topical. ANC very much in sharp focus. How is what's happening in Nasrec translating to the ordinary people on the ground with regards to policies, with regards to bread and butter issues? That's what it boils down to, isn't it? Let's take you back now live to Makeketla Motlabede, live for us in Booysens, having a bit of a chat with people regarding the importance. Talk to us about their level of interest in engaging with regards to this conference, Make.
Yeah, welcome back, Blaine. Yeah, quite interesting views coming from the crowd here. Obviously, some people not happy about gender representation. You had them earlier on, but let's bring in Jerry now. Jerry, talk to us. You have been following the news coming from Nasrec. Do you even care, though?
Thank you very much, my brother, for your program. I'm saying that it is through these programs that the plight of our people are being heard. Right where we are now is Booysens, informal settlement, 3 kilometers or 4 kilometers to Nasrec, where the conference of ANC is being held. But just the long and short of it is that conferences have come and have gone, but we have never seen much of implementation of the policies that are supposed to have assisted our people. So now my plea, just in closure, is to say that the people who have been elected, they must stop playing with our people, because you can see right where we are now. The situation is in dire. Our people are not having services here, but hence we got the conferences that where these things are being discussed. So whether it's the new leadership or it's an old leadership.
Puyo, I'm going to come to you so that you can wrap it up for us. Talk to us. You're also the LGBTQI community member. Talk to us with what's happening there in Nasrec. You have been following the events there. What do you think of it?
I think of they're taking over from themselves. They don't care about some other peoples, especially on these days and in this other country. Now you can see only the one person that you're taking over is only the mains. You must give some chances, some other nations some chances, not that some Zulus, some whatever. Everyone must get some chances so they can rule. So manje, we have to think some other sonke, so taking each other's cake, so be right. I'm great.
All right. Thanks so much indeed. Well, those are the views of residents here in Booysens informal settlement. Blaine, no electricity, no services here. But believe it or not, they are watching.
Yeah, no doubt they are. It's hotting up in Booysens. No doubt it's hotting up in Nasrec as well. We're going to keep you abreast with the latest from that part of the world. Makike Motlabe, as always, great reporting. Thank you very much indeed. Now, at this point, let's take our regular word on the street feature. It comes from North Kisach in Soweto, just stone throw away from Nasrec, where the ANC conference is currently underway. Take a look.
The political report is going to be delivered. If you don't want to listen to it, you make your noise, but the political report is going to be delivered.
I would like the ANC to be transparent in everything that they are doing, create more jobs. Our lights is a problem. Eskom is a big, huge problem in South Africa. The trucks, the cars, the taxis, the roads. Please let them fix all that.
The policies that I would like them to change is they must review every policy that they do have, because you've been using the same thing and it's not working. So go back to the drawing board and see how can you literally change your policies and do action, and not only tell us about your policies and what it stands for. It doesn't make any sense.
To come and display this type of disorderly behavior in the presence of international guests, and as our nation is watching what is happening here. Comrades, this does not behave well for the African National Congress.
My expectation is for them to discuss unemployment between all races and how to decrease crime in South Africa.
I hold a national diploma in ABET, but yet still there's unemployment. So I really would love and like the ANC to speak more about unemployment, not only based on the youth. They should consider us adults as well, because a woman who's 50 years old is not old people. I mean, a woman who's 50 years old has children, and she needs to cater for those children.
So all the decisions that have been made is purely based on what's going to benefit the top leadership and the ANC as a whole, and not South African as a whole. I really think they should, what's coming out of that conference should be more towards the South African, for us on the ground, and not for the top leadership.
All right, your voice does indeed count. Thank you very much indeed. Let's bring in our digital audience back into the conversation. I want to speak to Kwena now. Kwena, if you can unmute. Look, no doubt that young people are living with the consequences of apartheid. But do you think they have a real feel and understanding of it? And if not, how do you think political parties should factor this in when speaking to them?
Good evening to you and your viewers. I think as young people, we do understand what apartheid actually entailed, but then it's actually very sad that today we still under the so-called democracy and still experiencing the institutional apartheid. But to solely blame apartheid in today's chaos as a country, as young people, will be misleading ourselves, because everything goes back to the 28 years of freedom that we've been having under the ANC government that is actually failing us as young people in this country.
Yeah. Atlanta's Queen, I see your hand. I'm going to come to you in a short while. Let's bring in Anissa now. Give you a chance with regards to your take. Anissa, if you can just unmute, please. There you go. Okay, go ahead.
Very good evening to you and to your audience. I think one thing that we can appreciate, or that we can see, is the organizational paralysis that the ANC is currently undergoing. They speak about issues of renewal, but I would argue that they need to reposition themselves. For the mere fact that, when the ANC talks about renewal, they're talking about renewing the ANC to take it back to what it was in 1912. However, they need to reposition it to speak to the 21st century. And if we remember, Charles Darwin once spoke about survival of the fittest. And I think that's what the ANC is trying to do. It is struggling to, adapt. It is struggling to modernize. It is struggling to be relevant to the youth. And we see this with the youth's despondency. And when we look at the ANC's strategy and tactic documents, we see that the ANC says that it is important for the ANC to hold a dual role, to be both a liberation movement as well as a political party. And we see that the ANC has been stuck in being a liberation party as opposed to a political party. And I think it is, struggling to transition into that. But also, as a parting shot, I think it is very important to acknowledge the fact that what is going on right now is due to the deeply ingrained institutional and systematic legacies of apartheid. And where Dr. Caesar Mpofu-Walsh actually argues that apartheid was not done away with. We don't have democracy. It is the fact that apartheid was just privatized. And I think it is very important for us not to ignore that factor, but also, not to use that as an excuse as to why we are here. The producer is sitting right now with people who have no access to electricity. And I mean, that is a basic human right. Yeah. We talk about the fourth industrial revolution, yet people are still stuck in the third industrial revolution.
Important points indeed. Atlanta's Queen, jump in, please. You had your hand up.
Thank you very much, Blaine. What I actually just wanted to add on, I think, to what one of the ladies ahead of me have just spoken of, speaks to also the question, Blaine, that you asked us earlier around the caliber of leadership, right? And if it's important for us to view the caliber of leadership as they stand now. We've got the Ramaphosa slate and we've got the Zweli Mkhize slate. Now, Ramaphosa has cases that he needs to answer to. There's even a private prosecution case that has been brought up against him. In all this time, he has not demonstrated being a leader who would want to subject himself to scrutiny and accountability. Compare that to how Dr. Zweli Mkhize dealt with the digital vibes issue, where he even resigned. And over and above that, then the SIO report cleared him of those allegations. So that's just what I wanted to also bring to the table. That is very important, and I think even for the delegates at the conference to really consider things like that, as they go through to vote for.
Thank you very much indeed for your contribution. We're fast running out of time, but you have your hand up. Jump in.
Good day, everyone. I would like to add on Anissa's point when he touched on institutionalized and the form of governance that ANC has inherited from the apartheid regime. First, we have to look, we have to distinguish a point whereby ANC inherited a form of governance from the oppressors, whereby they were not equipped to run. Remember that Africans, before apartheid and everything, they had their own ways of running their governance, or they had their own norms of doing things. But right now, they inherited something which is completely different, and they never gave themselves time to go and study it and know how to go about with it. Hence, we're experiencing such governmental failure from the ANC side, and also the generational mix. The ANC fails to bring in the generational mix and the youth. Yes.
Okay, Bafofo, thank you very much. Kanya, to you, and then to Calvin. Kanya, if you can unmute, sir.
Good evening, Blake. Just to emphasize on the points that have been raised, I think the ANC is having a transitional problem from transitioning to from it being a guerrilla movement to it being a professional movement. It's really struggling on that point. Hence, we as a country are in the mess we are in, and in order for the ANC to save itself and to save the soul of the ANC, including the soul of the country, they really need to check the quality of people they send out our issues as South Africans, because what we faced for the past 28 years is really atrocious, whereby we should have been far, but that's what's happening. So if the ANC could just deal with the transition, then we'd really move forward.
So that succession plan important. Calvin, final word to you. Fast running out of time. 15
good evening,
seconds.
Good evening to the fellow panelists as well, and to you. Valid points are being made by the panelists. There's a number of issues that came up during the discussion, and I just want to maybe focus on one or two. The one I would like to comment on is the decline of the ANC that we're seeing now. Mention has been made of the ANC that failed to transform itself from a liberation movement, or as Kanya now said, a guerrilla movement, into a proper political party. That has been the experience on the African continent, primarily with liberation movements, where they failed to make that step up to political parties. So that's the one. And the longevity terms of liberation movements being in power is about 25, 30 years. So that's why we're seeing a sudden decline of the ANC of late. That's the one point I want to make. The other point is that, talking about the caliber of leadership, the caliber of leadership, since the Morogoro conference in '69, where it was spoken, about non-racialism in the ANC and how to deepen that, that's been a struggle for the ANC up to now, and especially when it comes to the caliber of leaders that they're putting out there. Even now at this conference that we're having now, we see that coming to the fore as well. We do not have credible leadership within the ANC to contest any position for that matter.
Calvin, thank you very much indeed for your time. Digital audience, value added indeed. We appreciate your time. It's just got enough time to hear my take. I heard someone say that control is only chaos going your way sometimes. And sometimes we feel that way, right? That's why this country needs strong leadership to lead from the front. South Africans, they're looking for answers. They're looking for solutions. You heard Makeketa there. The issues are seemingly obvious. It's water, it's safety, it's electricity. The list goes on. But it's how these issues are being framed is what's important. And what's being done to deal with these issues, that is even of greater importance. But there's also the other aspect. People just don't vote only on policy, right? Sometimes they vote and feel whether they can trust someone or a party. And ultimately, those in leadership ranks needs to recognize that it all boils down to serving the needs of the people. So I'll say this again to the leaders of all political parties, as well as independents. You don't want to play with legitimate pain, legitimate fear, and legitimate frustration. You want to speak to it and have a counter message that makes people feel included and empowered. It is consistency and accountability paired with humility that makes a great leader. It's about listening to society and then acting. 1 + 1 has to equal 2. Listening plus acting needs to be equals to problem solved, or at the very least, better. Just don't take the electorate for granted. Until next week, my brothers and sisters, take care. Bye-bye.